به نام خدا، به نام زن، زندگی، آزادی. In the name of God, in the name of woman, life, freedom. Today's short podcast or omnibus podcast is going to be not as long as the first one that Kayvon, Yahya and I made yesterday. In this podcast, I'm going to speak a little bit about the hack that happened over the weekend by the Iranian hacktivist group Black Reward. They penetrated into the information data of the atomic program of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They warned the IRI that unless the IRI were to release all political dissidents within 24 hours, that they would release this information. And this time came and went. And Black Reward released about 50 gigs of data online of what they have hacked so far. Now, this information is quite extensive. I have only managed to download one of these files, which was 5 gigs, and based on analysis online and also some of the stuff that I have looked at myself, one thing that comes to mind, very conspicuously, is the degree to which the Russian government, the Putinist kleptocratic criminal mafia regime, has penetrated the Iranian atomic program. Now, the details of what this penetration is going to be basically fleshed out in the coming weeks and months and years. And it will probably be years before scholars will be ready to actually analyze this data to get a really clear picture of what is going on, all the backwards, all the goings and not goings on, and what have you. But what we need to understand in this information war of the people of Iran against these propagandists that are being propped up by the Islamic Republic of Iran itself, especially those of them who have PhDs and have graduated from universities like Columbia universities and are working in places such as Stanford, is that when these people appropriate and weaponize the anti-colonial and anti-imperialist discourse, this particular information demonstrates very clearly that Iran, under Ayatollah Khamenei and under the Islamic Republic, and contrary to the rhetoric that the IRI has been spouting for the past 43 years, in the beginning when Ayatollah Khomeini said neither east nor west, that Iran has effectively made itself into a client state, a satrapy of Putinist Russia. That the government of Putin and that advisors of the Putinist regime have penetrated every area of the highest levels of the national security of Iran. Now, back in 2015 and 2016, when I was screaming at the top of my lungs all throughout Facebook and social media, warning people in Iran not to allow the Russians to penetrate the Iranian national security. Instead, I was met by jeers and campaigns of defamation orchestrated by the supporters of the IRI in social media spaces such as Facebook and elsewhere. A very deadly defamation and hate campaign by these people that eventually resulted in the suspicious death of my wife Roya in March 2019. But what is very obvious is that I have been proven right by these hacks that were made over the weekend by Black Reward, is that Russia and Putin have in fact penetrated the Iranian national security regime to the full extent. So effectively, the Sepaya Pastaran, the IRGC, and all the way into the Beit Rahbari, or the leader's own Beit means house. So I don't know what the equivalent in English of Beit Rahbari would translate, but it would be the leader's house or the leader's office. That Putin is basically holding Khamenei and the entire national security apparatus of the Islamic Republic of Iran in his hand. So if these propagandist voices and mouthpieces of the Islamic Republic of Iran wish to talk about anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism, because of this trove of documents that has been leaked black reward, and God bless them for doing so. They need to now step back and explain how it is that Iran has made itself into a client state, a Russian comprador state, effectively. Now, I saw this, there was evidence of this back in 2015 in the manner in which the media, the foreign media and the internal media of the IRI, namely Press TV, which I briefly worked with from Berlin, but also, groups, networks such as Tasnim News, etc., how these people were pushing a very conspicuous Russian line to the extent to which Russia Today and Press TV had no conflicting lines, editorial lines at all. What Russia Today was saying, Press TV was saying. What Press TV was saying, Tasnim News was saying. And what Tasnim News was saying effectively is what Seda and Sima was saying. And I pointed this all out back in 2015 because it was obvious. But instead, I was met with a defamation campaign, and my life and the life of my family was put under serious risk. Extended members of my family who have been pulled into this Russian alt media ecology racket themselves were participating very actively in social media, and particularly on Facebook, in these threats and defamation campaigns and hate campaigns against me and my family. But the fact of the matter is, makaru wa makarullah wa Allahu khairul makirin. They plot and God plots, and verily God is the greatest of all plotters, because I have been proven right. That all these alarms that I was sounding back in 2015 were to the point and worse than my worst fears, in the sense that Russia effectively controls both the manufacture and the policy decisions that are being made at the very top of the national security apparatus of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and particularly where the atomic program is concerned. Now, what is extremely interesting about this trove of leaks is that it shows that not only Iran is possibly in violation of the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but Russia itself is violating the very agreement that it pushed Iran into signing. And this is something that needs to be looked at in the future. And it is really interesting to me that how far Russia was allowed by the hardliners of the Islamic Republic of Iran to basically set the policy and become the leash holder of the hardliners within Iran. But the hardliners are not to blame here, because obviously the reformists and obviously Zarif, obviously former President Hassan Rouhani knew the extent to which they were being puppeteered by the Russians. So the buck does not merely stop with Ayatollah Khamenei, but also with these reformers who were in power before. I will leave it here and only say that times have proven me right. And it's very unfortunate that things have come to this end, but it's also very auspicious that in the time of Russia's weakness, where it is having its backside handed to it by the Ukrainians on the field, that it can no longer come to the aid of its little client state in the middle of Southwest Asia, namely the Islamic Republic of Iran, and to basically pull its chestnuts out of the fire. So this hack undermines the Iranians, the Islamic regime, this mafia state of the mullahs. It undermines Vladimir Putin. And at a time when Russia is fighting a war against the Ukrainians and is losing, and at a time when Iran has erupted in an outright revolution against the mullahs regime, this information and this hack could not have come at a worse time for the regime. And this says, and it also pushes the back of the international community now to take a decisive stand against the IRI and in support of the Iranian people who are attempting to topple this mullahcracy. And it will happen. So from my reading of this is these hackers were really doing God's work in every conceivable sense of it. And so we are now moving into an extremely interesting phase of this Iranian Revolution of 2022. Last weekend in Berlin, between 80,000 and 100,000 Iranians showed up to demonstrate their solidarity with the people back home. And this is a game changer. And it is a game changer because it finally demonstrates that these Western governments who have been kind of pulling their feet in supporting this and putting their, putting their weight behind the Iranian people, it now brings this matter home to these people as well, that this is what they need to do. So until next time, until the next Omnibus, Ta Piruzi, until victory.